Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Prophecy Update. It's our desire to bring the events that are happening in the world from a biblical perspective and also a prophetic perspective. So thanks for joining us today. We got a lot of items to talk about today. The major focus we're going to look at is the corporate fascism that's happening. We're going to talk about what's happening at Disneyland as an example of this corporate fascism that is pushing on us wokeism. And so now Disneyland has become the wokest place on earth. I say that tongue-in-cheek, but they have done a lot of crazy things lately. We're also going to focus in on this week on some apostasy. But first of all, we want to talk about what's happened in Israel. As many of you probably know, Israel has been attacked by Hamas. And it started with, these Palestinians throwing rocks over into the Western Wall area off the Temple Mount and causing problems there and causing chaos. And so, of course, the Israeli folks, the military, the police had to respond to that because it was becoming dangerous. And then that escalated as they responded to that. They shot some tear gas up there on the Temple Mount just to disperse that crowd up there that was throwing rocks and all kinds of things, hurting the Israelis. And then it escalated with Hamas shooting all kinds of rockets into Israel. Obviously, Israel has Iron Dome that protects it. We'll talk a little bit about that. But it's just a constant problem over there because of the Islamic mindset towards the Jews and just the absolute satanic hatred. So every time, it's funny that Israel responds to defend herself, you see America, you see all the news groups saying, well, we just hope that both sides can calm down and establish peace. And I want to say, wait a second. It's one group called Hamas and the Palestinians who are causing the problem. They're drawing first blood. And all Israel is doing is responding to it and to knock it off and to knock out those who are firing rockets or knock out anyone that's trying to hurt other people by throwing rocks down on people from the Temple Mount onto Jewish worshipers. All Israel's doing is defending themselves like any normal, rational nation or people group should. It is the Hamas element, it is the terroristic element of the Palestinians that are inciting problems. And of course, a lot of people on both sides have been hurt and injured. A lot of Israelis were injured, obviously. And then you had, I think, as of today that I'm making this video, at least according to the Israeli army, about 180 rockets were fired in Israel. And thank God for Iron Dome. Here's some videos that I want to show you of how Iron Dome works. And these are the rockets that Hamas was firing into Israel. And Israel's defense works very well. So you can see in these videos. So as you can see, these incoming projectiles are heading for Israeli targets, and of course the Iron Dome missiles, defense system, it shoots them out of the air. So altogether, as the making of this video, there was 1,300 rockets and mortar shells that had been fired since Monday. By the time we upload this video, there probably will be more. But anyway, what does it come down to? It comes down to terroristic activities. It's the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terror organization that's doing it, and and the world doesn't come to Israel's aid. Even the Biden administration doesn't even say anything. Oh, we just hope people calm down and the violence stops. Wait a second. Who's committing the violence? Because it's not Israel. Israel's retaliating and defending itself. They're not creating violence. It's the Palestinians that are doing it. But notice how the narrative in the world is that Israel's always the problem. Israel is always causing these things to happen in the Middle East. No, it's not. It's Islam. It's the religion of Islam. It's the Palestinians who are ran by Hamas and Fatah, and they're proxy organizations for other terroristic nations. Whether it's Hezbollah up in the north controlled by Iran, or Hamas and these other terroristic organizations controlled by other countries as a front group, that's what it's all about. They want to wipe out Israel. That's the whole point. And people don't seem to get that. And so you still have the left, the globalists, vilifying Israel and making Israel the bad guy. And that's never going to change. So we should get used to it, but pray for Israel, pray for that they can defend themselves. And unfortunately, they're going to be vilified, and we understand that, but the Lord knows what's happening. And we just pray for their protection, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And when we pray that, we're praying for them to accept Messiah and Messiah to come back and rule and reign from Jerusalem. But let's keep an eye on that. Let's pray for the Jewish people to come to faith in the Messiah. And you can see how bad it's getting on the streets in Israel. And there's, obviously extreme groups that are doing mob violence. There's a lot of Arab doing mob violence, and then there's some Jewish extremists doing violence as well, going back and forth. And so this is happening on the streets of Israel. I wanted to show you this so you can see that it's turned into a lot of mob activity. So watch this, and I'll come back after this.
ככה התחיל הלינץ'. זה לא ניסיון דריסה, אבל אני יכול להבין...
אפשר לראות את זה מההתחלה רגע?
כן, בוא נריץ את זה שוב להתחלה. אפשר להבין למה אותו מרואיין אמר לדניאל אלעזר שזה ניסיון דריסה, כי זה יכול לחשב... אפשר לפרש את זה כאיזה ניסיון דריסה, אבל ברור שמה שקורה כאן...
אוקיי, אנחנו רואים אנשים צועדים על הכביש, ואז...
הרכב טס לתוך הקהל, הוא מנסה לחצות את ההמון הזוהם מהפחד. ככה זה נראה לי.
ויש רכב בכיוון הנגדי?
ואז, לא, הוא נתקע ברכב כשהוא מנסה לעקוף. כן, הוא מנסה לעקוף.
לא, הרכב שהוא נתקע בו הוא רכב...
רכב שבא ממולו.
כן, ממולו.
הוא נע חזיתית, הוא מנסה להימלט מההמון הזוהם, ולכן הוא נותן גז. לכן יכול להיות שהיה שם מי שחשב, באמת, היו אנשים שחשבו, ואפשר להבין אותם שמדובר בניסיון דריסה. אבל כשמסתכלים איך זה מתחיל, אז ברור שהוא לא דוהר לכיוון המון, אלא הוא דוהר כדי פשוט להימלט מהמקום. יש שם המון זוהם, וככה זה השניות הראשונות של הלינץ' הזה המחריד בבת ים.
So as you can see, the violence seems very similar, doesn't it? It's similar to what happened in America with all the mob violence, Antifa, and all these terroristic groups, BLM and whatnot, that were happening in our streets and continue to happen in America. Here's the funny thing. What's happening in America is also happening in Israel. You have incitements by these radicals like Hamas or Fatah, or in America it's BLM, or it's Antifa groups and stuff like that. And I want you to see a parallel. They're going after Benjamin Netanyahu just like they went after Trump. And they want to put into their place, like they did the United States, a leftist. That's what they want. And eventually, we know that Israel goes left because eventually they do a deal with the Antichrist. So a lot of this is, going to be probably drummed up. They're already saying that now in Israeli newspapers, Netanyahu's mishandling it. He's not taking care of business. This is why all these riots are erupting, just like they did to Trump. It's the same pattern, I want you to notice. So what's happening in Israel has already happened in the United States, and it's to oust the conservative element out of Israel's government. And so all of this is playing into the scenario for the end times. For America, it's to get rid of the conservative element so that America can usher in a global government and be part of that and not hold anything back. And for Israel, it's to get them to liberalize. So spiritually speaking, eventually the Antichrist will do a deal with them. And it's that liberal element that will strike a deal for their own protection. See, right now, Israel's thinking we can protect ourselves, and they can, and they're very good at protecting themselves. But there's going to come a day where they're going to look to somebody, the Antichrist, to protect them, according to Isaiah, from the overflowing scourge. So as the scriptures say, Isaiah 28:15 says, "Because you have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with Sheol we are in agreement. When the overflowing scourge passes through, it will not come to us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood we have hidden ourselves." That passage right there explains why Israel gets into a covenant with the Antichrist. It is for military protection. Overflowing scourge has to do, as it passes through, has to do with a military invasion. So Israel, they fight, and they fight, and they fight, as we can see, and they have every right to defend themselves. But there is a sentiment in Israel that I noticed, even going back about 2 years ago and talking to some of the Jews there, and even Messianic Jews, Messianic believers in Messiah, when I was in Israel. There's a sentiment in Israel on the ground that says, look, we just want peace at all costs. We're tired of fighting. We're tired of dealing with these Palestinians, these terroristic groups. We just want peace. And we can understand that. Anyone would want peace. We don't want someone firing rockets in our backyard, killing us. So I get that. But this desire for peace will ramp up so bad and so much that it will eventually cause the leaders of Israel, which I believe will be liberal at the time, leftists at the time, to do a deal with the Antichrist. Say, hey, you protect us from any of these wars and any invasions, and we'll cut a deal with you. Now, it's perhaps because of Psalm 83 happening and Gog of Magog happening that Israel's tired from war, but eventually all this stuff pushes Israel eventually to make a deal with the Antichrist to protect them militarily. And he does so, and they will. It's already prophesied in Scripture. They'll make a covenant with them, 7-year covenant. And it's a new covenant. It will not be based off the Abrahamic Accords. It's a new covenant according to the Hebrew. And Daniel chapter 9:27 is your reference for that. But all that to say is things are shaping up in the Middle East to push Israel in that direction. How long it takes, I'm not sure. But it is pushing Israel in that direction. Israel has a right to defend herself. Israel has a right to stop the violence from the Hamas, Palestinians, and whatnot. They have a right to do that. And they have a right to their land. It is their land. And there's no compromise on that. And so pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That means that you pray for them to accept Messiah, and we pray for the return of the Messiah to rescue Israel. He'll do that at the second coming. And pray for their salvation, because that means that they will go in the rapture and not be left behind. So pray for the Jews. We love them. We know they're God's people, and God has a plan for them, okay? The next item we want to talk about is, again, the growing apostasy in the church. This is the recent thing. The Evangelical Lutheran Church in America has elected, first of all, a transgender bishop. Can you believe that? Can you believe we have reached this point to where we now have not just gay and lesbian pastors, but we now have transgender pastors? Now, I call them imposters, imposters really, but impastors because they're not really pastors. You can't be a transgender pastor. There's no such thing. It's like saying flaming snow. It doesn't happen. But in the wackadoo world of apostasy, apparently you can have this. And so I want you to see the trail of this, how we got there. First of all, the church allowed female pastors. That was the opening of the door. Doesn't mean that women can't be in ministry. Doesn't mean that women can't prophesy. Women can't pray in the church, can't speak in the church. It means that women cannot be pastors. So my reference is 1 Timothy 2:12. And the rest of that verse explains 2 reasons why they can't be, according to the Apostle Paul. And that passage is not time-bound. It is an eternal passage. It is the Word of God, and it applies back then and applies today. So that was the first opening. Then the second opening, the church allowed homosexual priests and pastors to come in. Then they allowed lesbian pastors and priests to come in. And then now you're into transgenderism. Okay, I don't know where you go from there. Once you've allowed transgenderism pastors, there's nothing left, which means there's nothing left for the church, which means that we're in the last days of the church. And, of course, the remnant is preserved, but the rest of the church is going apostate. It's crazy. And so we shouldn't be shocked by this. A little more insight into the individual that did this, this transgender pastor, the Reverend Megan Rohrer. It's really a guy pretending to be a girl. And he's appeared on TV's Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And it's up there in San Francisco, which should not surprise any of us, but it's an impostor. It's an imposter. It's a hireling. It's not real. It's not true. But you're going to see more of it. That's the idea. You're going to see more of it, and you're going to see society accept it, and you're going to see the church accept it. Just like the church is accepting unnatural affections, just like the church is accepting transgenderism or Deuteronomy 22:5ism, it's going to be more and more accepted. So you and I have to hold the line. You and I have to say, no, that's wrong, that's evil, that's wicked. We have to hold the line. No matter what kind of pushback you and I get, we have to hold the line. Anyway, let's go to the next item. This is the where I wanted to spend a little bit more time on, is what happened at Disneyland. Obviously, they're calling it the wokest place on earth now. And again, this constantly is showing us that the corporations and the government are now pushing global woke corporate fascism. And that's what the Babylonian system is, that the governments of the world and the big businesses of the world push on people the Babylonian religion. So wokeism is just a portion of the Babylonian religion. It's called 180ism. It's the opposite of what God says, right? And so there was an investigative journalist that did some uncovering of what Disneyland was doing in training its employees. His name was Chris Rufo, and he wrote up a big article. He was on Tucker, he was on a lot of news channels, and he was on a lot of websites for his article. And basically he said he overturned whistleblower documents about Disney's diversity and inclusion program called Reimagine Tomorrow, which paints a disturbing picture of the company's embrace of this wokeism, or basically racial politics. So he goes on, Chris Rufo, he says, in the past year, Disney executives have elevated the ideology of critical race theory into their new corporate dogma, which has happened all over the place. It's happened with Nike, it's happened with Coca-Cola, it's happened with Target, Home Depot, you name it. It's all over the place, right? So Disneyland, the reason we're pointing them out, because that as a corporation is a massive corporation. They own ESPN, they own ABC, and they own so many other things. Pixar, a lot of the things you watch are owned by Disney. They are a massive corporation. And this massive corporation is pushing wokeism, critical race theory, saying that America is systematically racist, saying there's white privilege, white fragility, all this nonsense to divide America up. And again, it's promoting self-hatred, hatred of country, and they're pushing really hard and saying that America has just been racist and transphobic. And I want to say, how has America been transphobic? Because the word didn't even exist about 5 years ago. How did America in the 1800s, or in its founding, how was it transphobic? Are you just making that up, Disney? And again, to all its workers have no way of probably knowing the difference because they don't know history, never been taught history, and so they just accept it, right? And it's all anti-white, anti-U.S. government. It's everywhere now, and now it's at one of the largest corporations in the world, man. Disney is a billion-dollar company, man. Anyway, you can't at Disneyland. You can't say all lives matter. You can't do that. And now the cast members, they call them their employees, are allowed to display tattoos, wear inclusive uniforms, and display inclusive haircuts. So now, if you've ever went to Disneyland or Disney World, they used to have a policy is that, hey, no facial hair, no tattoos, you're going to look clean and cut and kept proper. Now when you go there, you're going to see a guy wearing a dress and a girl wearing a guy's outfit, vice versa, right? And be prepared to see people with tats all over their faces and heads. Be prepared to see blue hair, pink hair, green hair, long hair, just in every style you could imagine. And again, I'm not trying to dog anyone that has a tattoo or has different hair color. I'm just saying Disney had a standard. And what the standard was to give a picture of what America used to be, and and not show you what the outside world's like. It was supposed to be a place where you could escape the outside world and not see a lot of those things that you would see normally in the outside world. So please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to get on to anybody for having tattoos or different colored hair. The point of it was it was a place to escape from how the world lives. And now they're saying, no. If a guy wants to wear a dress and a girl wants to wear a guy's outfit, they can, and you can wear your hair any way you want. Well, you know that's going to open Pandora's box. You're going to walk in there and it's going to look like a circus with the employees. And so this is the way Disney's going. This is the way all of these companies are going. There's so many people that tell me they work for a company that has no dress code anymore. So people just come in how they want to. In one situation, a sheriff told me in the sheriff department, they had one guy that was a Deuteronomy 22 guy. And so all of a sudden one day he's dressed in a sheriff's outfit. Next day he's dressed in high heels and he comes walking into the sheriff's outfit. It's just insane. It's insane. What are you thinking? What are you doing? You know? But that's what's happening. And they tell their white employees at Disneyland, get this, that you must work through your feelings of guilt and shame and defensiveness to understand beneath them that you need to be healed of your racism, basically, you know, your white privilege. It's just, and the other thing they say is you can't say, I don't see color. You can't say that. Isn't that crazy? That's causing more racism. We shouldn't judge anybody by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, by their value system. That's how we judge people, is by their character. But no, Disney's saying, no, you can't say I don't see color. You have to see color now. We're going to force you to see color. And if you're white, you're the problem. You're the problem. See how they reversed everything? It's actually racist propaganda towards white people. That's what it's about. And get this, that Disney even says that employees should reject equality and focus on equity. Now that's an economic term. See, we believe in America equality of opportunity. All men are created equal, right? Under God. And they have equal opportunity. They should be given equal opportunity to make their life. But see, Marxism and communism teaches equity or equal outcomes. They want equal outcomes. So Disney decides to teach economics to its employees of saying we want equity, equal outcomes for people, not just equality. Don't say equality, say we want equal outcomes, equity. Well, they're teaching them that's economic communism. That's economic Marxism and socialism. That's what Disneyland's teaching their employees. Is anyone going to say anything? Is anyone going to do anything about this? No, they're not. They're going to go along with it and jump right into the pit along with everyone else who's jumping into the pit. And Disney goes even further to race bait and divide. Is they have you fill out a form that says, how can you tell if you have white fragility? White fragility is simply their way of saying that when you defend yourself and say, look, I'm a good person, I'm not a racist, or I've been taught to treat everyone the same, they say that's white fragility. You're making up the fact that you're defending yourself is white fragility. No, it's not. That's how they're trying to shut us down and shut us up by saying you're wrong. Oh, you just have white fragility. That's why you're reacting to it. So the only response they want you and I to have is say, yeah, I'm a racist and I need to own that and apologize for my actions. That's what they want you to say. But that's a forcing of that. So if you don't say that, then you have white fragility. And so it's insane. It's insane what they're doing. But anyway, at the conclusion of this 21-day challenge they give to their employees, the participants are told that they must learn how to pivot from white dominant culture to something different. What? What's different? What are you talking about? Really, it's not white dominant culture. It's the Judeo-Christian ethic culture. And they want them to pivot to something ungodly, is what they're saying. The document obviously claims, just like we've heard before in wokeism, that competition, that leadership, individualism, timelessness, comprehensiveness is all white dominant values. That's all racist terms, really. And that's what America was founded on, huh? Racism? No, it was founded on the Bible. And they're basically, what they're saying is that the Bible's foundation is racist, that God's a racist. That's what they're saying. And so it's the most blasphemous thing they could possibly do. And so Disney went ahead and launched all these affinity groups, they call them. There's a Latino affinity group called HOLA. There's an Asian affinity group called Compass. And a black group, affinity group they created called Wakanda. Now, I think that's about the most racist thing you could possibly do. They're segregating those groups, dividing those groups, and saying basically if you're not part of those groups, then you're less than. You're not really, a human being because you're just a flat-out white racist and you don't have any affinity groups. And that, my friends, is evil to the core. That's wickedness. Dividing people on the basis of skin color. Well, there's Disney for you. So the funny thing about all of this is it seems that Disneyland has somewhat of a hatred for its own guests, its own patriots. Because if you look at who goes to Disneyland, it's middle America, okay? Regardless of skin color, it's middle America. But by doing this thing that they're doing, they're actually going to alienate all of middle America. The people who visit their parks, the people who pay and watch their films, who buy their merchandise for their kids. And why would Disney do that? Why would Disney's executives have such a growing contempt for the very people who made their park successful? Why would they do that? See, because they're no longer on neutral ground anymore. The company is committed now to being the wokest place on earth, regardless of the consequences that it gives them economically. They don't care. Why would they do that? Why? Well, it comes back to what you and I have talked about. What is forming is the government corporate fascism. And the thing about it is, they're willing to lose profits in order to gain more money later on by being a monopoly. Well, what do you mean? Well, it's just like, let's take another company like, Home Depot or Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is going woke, okay? And they're completely woke, right? And so you would think, why would you want to alienate the people who drink Coke? That don't believe in wokeness, don't believe in Babylonianism. Why would you do that? It's because in the future, they're going to eliminate all competitors. All competitors of Coke who won't go along with the system are going to be eliminated. And at the end, they will be financially set. I mean, there's trillions of dollars to be made if you eliminate competition. And that's why they're doing this. Only the big corporations can do this. The mom and pop stores cannot do this. They can't go along with wokeness because they'll lose business. But these people are willing to lose the business in order to kill small business in order to gain all of the market. That's the idea, to have a monopoly on the market. And so they're willing to take a hit right now. That's why Disneyland's willing to go this path. They don't care because the future for them holds more if they go along this path. So they're willing to take a short-term hit for a long-term gain. That's their mentality. And the long-term game is this: you will not be in business if you don't go along with the system of wokeness and critical race theory. You won't be in business. They'll shut you down. And because the corporations are colluding with the governments of the world to do this, which is the Babylonian system. The merchants, the kings, and then the whore. The wokeness is simply the whore's religion. That's all it is. And so that's why they're doing it. Because they've realized you either get on board or you're going to go out of business, basically. That's what the New World System is going to do to people. And that's why, whether Disney executives believe it or not, or Coca-Cola's executives believe it or not, they know that they have to do it in order to make the big money. So that's why they're all woke. That's why these companies are doing what they do. It's sad. We're losing America. We're losing the Western culture. We're losing the Judeo-Christian ethics and values. Because why? For money. For what the whore can give them, money. And so we're being sold out by these people, sold out by these corporations, sold out by politicians. We're all being sold out. And unfortunately, we're being sold out by the majority of the church and the pastors and the hirelings that are in there. We're being sold out. This is one big, fat Judas Iscariot happening to people. And so I'm not all for boycotts and stuff because they're ineffectual. But I will say this. When you see these companies doing things like that, remember that the next time you want to spend any money on them. Just remember what they're up to. They hate you and I. They don't care if we have problems with it. They have no problem calling you and I a racist. That's the world we are in. That's the new reality. So let's buckle up. Let's grow some thick skin. And let's understand how the game is being played so that we don't get caught out of left field and not prepared for how this game is being played. So just a few things before we go. We're trying to make sure everyone gets transitioned off of YouTube onto our other channels like Rumble and Vimeo. We're also on podcasts called Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. And we're also on sermonaudio.org as well. But YouTube, we're wanting to transition off of it. We don't like it. We don't like being edited. And right now, again, I don't know how long we'll last on this channel, but our other platform got completely shut down. So if you want, try to get accounts with these other platforms. Second, if you want to have text alerts, sign up on our text alert system, follow this link, and it will show you where to go. You can fill out your name and put your phone in there, and we will text alert you on upcoming things, if we switch to different platforms or whatever, just so we can stay in communication with you. One of the things we're starting to do now is on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can go on this YouTube channel and we live stream the Q&A time where we talk about current events, theology, or whatever, for about an hour. And so if you want to tune into that, we live stream that. If you want, you can ask questions on that venue, and so it's a good time to kind of hear what's going on midweek. Lastly, we need your prayer support. We need your financial support if we can. If the Lord puts it on your heart to help us financially, that would bless us so much. We're still trying to raise money to build a building for ourselves and just to have money for the general offering for our ministry to keep doing what we're doing. We're one of the very few churches out there that are continuing to tell the truth about what's happening. And so we need help in funding this. Again, we're a small church. We're not a mega church or anything like that. So we need all the help we can get. So if the Lord lays it on your heart to help us, that'd be great. You can give online on our website at rockharborchurch.net and go to our giving tab and you can give online there. Or you can mail in a check or money order to Rock Harbor Church, P.O. Box 10868, Bakersfield, California, 93389. Anyway, remember what the Lord said. When you see these things begin to happen, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. God bless you. We'll see you next time.